All right, cool. So, yes, all right. So this is better. I'm happy, loud and clear. Leticia Comunella, yeah, with a very nice name. It says it's better. Okay, yes, it is. Mateus, thank you very much for the feedback. So I think we are ready to start. Um, well, for any problems that happens, please let me know, okay? Achievement Borez in the house, Mateo's in the house. Great to see you guys here. So I hope you guys are ready for our last session of the day. Um, well, I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Rodrigo. I've been a teacher for over 13 years now. I'm a very happy teacher. I really love my job. And I was honored with the invitation to be here to talking to you guys about something that I love to do and something that I love to teach, which is vocabulary. Perfect audio here. Thank you very much, Kelly, for your feedback. All right. So, well, I was born and raised here in Belo Horizonte. I'm from Achieve Languages Pampulha, you know, and it's a very nice place. We use very nice material, and we have great teachers. And some of our teachers are here today, and we have teachers from all over Brazil, and this is crazy. I was very excited about the first time that we had the Encontro Regional Pedagógico, and I was talking to a lot of people from Minas Gerais, but now I'm even more excited because I'm talking to people from all over Brazil, and this is going to be beautiful. So I hope you guys are ready. We have 23 people, 24 people watching right now, and this is how it starts. All right, today we're going to talk about input and the teaching and learning of vocabulary. Uh, just before we go for the topic itself, I I'm just gonna wait a little bit just because there are more people coming in. But yeah, so I would like to kick it off with a question, which is, guys, what do you know about input in the teaching and learning of vocabulary? So please share on the chat box your ideas because we're gonna cover some topics, and I really do love interaction. So please, if you have comments for us to start off, leave your comment down below. Chief Languages Mineiros in the house. It's great to have you here. All right, so we're gonna get started. Unfortunately, we had the technical problem, but now we're ready. 28 people watching, and we're gonna talk about input and output. And also, we're gonna cover something that is very interesting for us, teacher. And well, when it just said effective input helps the students to start speaking. We're seven here in Caratinga. Great. Caratinga is always welcome here. Caratinga, we love you. All right, so we're going to get started. And input in the teaching and learning of vocabulary. So let me just see what Malu just said. Input is a really important step to learn a new language. The teacher has to talk a lot, put students into an environment where they will listen a lot of English so they can start to produce it. That's great. That's why I asked this question because I don't want to be speaking over and over things that you already know. So, yes, Malu, I totally agree with you, and we're going to cover a lot of that. Input and the teaching and learning of vocabulary starting now. So, as you can see on the next screen, we have in there written and spoken. And written and spoken is divided into input and output. Well, for the spoken part, you have listening and speaking, where listening is the input, while output is the speaking. Why is that name like that? Well, first of all, it's because input is when you receive information. You receive information through spoken language. So when you receive, that's what we call input. And when you produce, That's what we call output. So input is when you receive the information, and output is when you produce that information. We covered that on the first time that we had our meeting, but this is just for you guys to remember. And we have that, of course, for the written part as well. So for the written part of the language, the input is the reading, while the output is the writing. So reading is when you receive information written by other people, and writing is when you produce information by writing something. And that goes exactly with the talk by Camilla, right? So she just talked about writing, tips for writing, which was amazing, by the way. And well, she gave us opportunity to actually get to know more about the different types of texts. And when you have different types of texts, we receive information from those texts, and also we can produce those texts later. And this is exactly where we're going with this. So, this conversation that we're having today is based on one of my favorite linguists of all times. I mean, I really do like him because, he pretty much brings one idea that I've thought for a long time that it would be a great idea for English learners and English language teachers. And then this guy put it down to paper, and then he came up with the PhD theory and all that. He's got many different kinds of theories, but my favorite theory and the theory for the moment is language acquisition. So, Mr. Stefan Krashen has this theory regarding language acquisition, and I'm going to read some parts, but I really do need you guys to comment on these parts. It's not going to be just me talking here, and I really need you to participate, okay? So use the chat box, talk to your teachers. I'll give you some time, and we're going to make it happen. So the first part says, language acquisition does not require extensive use of conscious grammatical rules and does not require tedious drill. So I'll give you some time, think about it, and come up with the comments. All right, Vanya just said, because it has to be contextualized. Yes, definitely. If you're learning a language, this language needs to be contextualized. You cannot just learn something that does not make sense or is not involved or embedded in conversations in real communication. It does not make sense to learn something that does not make sense to us. If it doesn't have a meaning, why should I learn it? So I'm going by parts, and it says, Malu just said, I agree. We don't learn our first language by reading rules, but by listening and reproducing. All right, guys, please keep commenting. So as Malu said, and I'm gonna go down to the same idea. Actually, we pretty much think alike when it comes to language acquisition. Nobody here who is Brazilian learned Portuguese by learning grammatical rules. Everybody, every kid that went to school, when he got to school, he already knew how to speak that language. He already knew how to communicate with people using that language. He knew the syntax of Portuguese because he ordered those words correctly. He could communicate his thoughts. He could talk to people. He could hear people and understand the message. He was a perfect a perfect Portuguese learner and Portuguese speaker. And this happens in any languages. Nobody needs to learn the grammatical rules in order for them to speak that language. And this happens because we are born with a capacity, an innate capacity to learn languages. This is what Noam Chomsky said. We're going to go for the second part. Acquisition requires meaningful interaction in the target language, natural communication in which speakers are concerned not with the form of their utterances, but with the messages they are conveying and understanding. Wow. This part here really caught my attention. That's why I decided to put this one here. Acquisition requires meaningful interaction. Look at what it says here, guys. Read that out loud and don't forget it. Meaningful interaction. Why am I going to talk about something that doesn't even make sense to my teenager? It does make sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to my teenager. What kind of connection will you have with this teenager? That's going to be almost or close to zero, close to nothing, because he just doesn't want to learn something that doesn't make sense to him. And he happens to all of us too. Vivian just said, when students learn by doing, learn while doing, grammar happens in the process without the need of addressing it formally all the time. Yes, Vivian, this is exactly what I'm trying to say with that. The point I'm trying to make, the point I'm trying to get across with is that grammar, as Daniel brilliantly said, is very important. Grammar is something that we need to concern, we need to study because it is how the language is structured. But you can learn that in a more natural way, in a more natural context. And when it happens, it is much more fun, I promise you. And if it's relevant to the students, according to Vivian here, he will never ask the question, why am I learning this? Because he will be using that immediately when learning it. Yes, that's great. That's great, Vivian. Exactly what it is. So, why am I going to talk about my favorite series if they have their favorite series? Maybe you can teach them using their own series, right? They like, I don't know, they like what, 13 Reasons Why, or they like Black Mirror, or they like Breaking Bad, or Friends, or whatever. So whenever you're teaching that language, if you use something that's closer to them, it's going to be more natural. And the messages they're understanding or they're trying to understand will be even more pleasant for them to learn with. So let me see what Leticia said. I agree. The process of language acquisition needs to happen naturally as our first language. Yes. Well, this is beautifully said, more difficult done. Unfortunately, uh, English is not our first language, so we need to treat it as a second language because we learn differently. But I totally agree with what you said. Yes, the process of language acquisition should be or should happen more naturally. So, this is our job as teachers. Our job is not to make it more rote and mechanic, is to make it more natural and pleasant. This is great for us as teachers because it's going to be more pleasant for us while teaching. It's going to be amazing for the student because the students will feel that they're not just going to a boring class again, one more time, trying to learn grammar. Oh my God, I have to do the homework and all that. No, it's going to be a more natural, more fun way. Have your students sing, have your students talk to each other, have your students exploit a world that they had never seen before because they were not given the opportunity so far. We're going to go for the third one. Comprehensible input is the crucial and necessary ingredient for the acquisition of language. Wow, this is one of my favorite too. Oh my God, I love what I'm talking about. I love this work. I love this study. Comprehensible input. What is comprehensible input? Comprehensible input is exactly what you can understand. Even though you're not at that level, you can still understand the message. This happens to us. I don't know if there's anybody here from an English speaking country, but well, I'm not a native speaker. I'm from Brazil, born and raised. English is my second language. This message is very clear to me. But if I talk to somebody from a different country, if I talk to somebody from England, the United States, Canada, South Africa, Australia, I might understand. Maybe I won't understand 100%, but I will understand most of the conversation because It's comprehensible input, even though it's a little bit further than my knowledge until that moment, but I can still understand it because it's comprehensible input. And when it says, when Stefan Krashen says comprehensible input is the crucial and necessary ingredient, it is because you don't want to have a class at your level. Because if that class is at your level, you're not learning anything. You're just keeping the same level. And that's frustrating. Imagine you pay a lot of money, you buy your course book, you buy a textbook, you buy a literature book, you have a platform, but everything that is on that you already know. So that would be boring. That's why we have comprehensible input, but it's not at the same level. And if this level is too much higher than what your level is, that's another frustration. That's complete frustrating, completely frustrating because you just don't understand anything. For example, is there anybody here that speaks Mandarin? No? I'm going to start now. So this is your first class, guys. 你好吗?我也很好,谢谢. Some of the people that are here today, they were attending my talk last month or 2 months ago. And probably they remember this one because we learned Chinese in our conversation. We learned a little bit of Mandarin. So now it might be comprehensible input for them. They're like, oh, yeah, you see, like Malu just said, I just understand ni hao or something like this. Yes, you understood ni hao. And you know how to answer ni hao? When somebody comes up to you and say, ni hao, you say, 我很好,我很好, which means I'm fine, thanks. Ni hao is hello, how are you? Say ni hao or ni hao ma, 我很好,谢谢. You see, Leandra just said 谢谢, which means thank you in Mandarin. So you see, now we're creating a situation, we're creating an atmosphere that whenever I repeat that information, this is going to be comprehensible the next time. So whenever you see somebody from China or from Taiwan or from Singapore, those are countries that have Mandarin as first language, you can ask the question, say, ni hao, and they might say, 我很好. I say, 我很好. And they say, 我也很好,谢谢, which means I'm fine too, thank you. So this is how comprehensible input works. And we're going to go for the last one, which is, according to this hypothesis, the learner improves and progresses when he or she receives second language input. That is one step beyond his or her current stage of linguistic competence. For example, if a learner is at a stage I, then acquisition takes place when he or she is exposed to comprehensible input that belongs to the level I plus 1. Exactly what I said, right? So I plus 1 means the level that you are plus something else. This is where your classes should be regarding vocabulary. So your vocabulary could not be always easy. Your student needs to have that question face, which means, what is he talking about? What is she talking about? Teacher, could you please repeat that? Teacher, what is that word you just said? Teacher, what does this word mean? Teacher, excuse me, I've just seen this word here on the book, but I don't quite understand it. Could you please explain it? And this is the correct level. So if you understand everything that's on your book, if your students understand everything that's on the book, that's the wrong level because they're not learning anything. They're just keeping the same level. And you don't want that. So you always want to have a plus 1. And the plus 1 in the language could be the grammar that you learn, new structure, the vocabulary that you learn, new words, new expressions, new phrasal verbs. And this is where we're going. So we're going to go to the next slide. But before we go, please, do you guys have any questions? All right, so we're going to move on to the next slide, which is what is the difference between language acquisition and language learning? This is going to be a quick one. And look at what it says in there according to Krashen. Language acquisition, subconscious learning, learning from experiences, books, movies, games, toys, conversations, and so on. Which brings you to knowing through language, picking up words, trying to ask for things, talking about experiences. While language learning is conscious learning, learning rules, grammar structure, grammar instruction, error correction, and knowing about language. Look, you know the grammar rules, you know memorize word lists, you can describe language. You ever seen that usually students from Brazil, our students here, they want to know why the language is like this. Why do I have to put do here? Oh, but do, what is do in Portuguese? Oh, when you say, do you like chocolate? What is do? And then say, well, don't worry about it. Do is what we use when you're asking a question in a simple present. It's called auxiliary verb. Yeah, but what is that in Portuguese? Like he needs to describe it. He needs to know why this language is like that. And that's kind of crazy because you will never know that. Why do we put do to ask questions? You know where to use it, you know how to use it, but you don't know where it came from. You don't know who started it. You know who said, well, we need to use do and does to ask questions. We don't know that. And they don't need to know that. But it's very difficult to make them understand that they need to leave it. They need to let it go. Just learn the language. So that is pretty much the difference between language acquisition and language learning. Language learning is more formal. Language learning is more academic, is more based on corrections, based on uh, grammar, on learning rules, memorizing things, understanding exactly how the language goes and why it goes like that and not like this. Let me see. Viviane Madeira da Silva just said challenging is an effective tool for learning. Yes, it is. Vanya just said all the time how to make them to ask fewer questions. Wow, we're going to talk a little bit about this. Malu Nobre just said they love translating. It's difficult to teach them that translating is not effective. They take a good time to get it. Yes. Leandra has a question. So please, Leandra, bring your question. So answering Vanya all the time, how to make them ask fewer questions. Well, one of my strategies I have is to actually teach them in chunks. Instead of teaching grammar pieces or words, you teach them chunks. Well, if you want to say that you want to go to the bathroom, your question is, may I go to the restroom? Why is it like this? What is may? What is I? I don't care. If you want to go to the bathroom right now, your question is, may I go to the restroom? May I go to the restroom? Have them repeat the whole chunk instead of, teacher, how do I say banheiro in English? And then you say restroom. And then your student go like this, teacher, restroom. No, we don't want that language. We want the complete thing. We want the complete language. So if you use chunks, that would be more effective. Teacher, may I go to the restroom? And then now that you have the chunk, may I go or may I? You can teach more vocabulary. Teacher, may I open the windows? Teacher, may I drink some water? Teacher, may I pick up my phone? Teacher, may I talk to my friend? Teacher, may I go out of the classroom because I need to see the secretary? So, with that chunk, instead of asking questions about that language, he's just going to put that into practice. Leandro just said, can we say language acquisition is a little bit more superficial? No, you can't. You can't say that at all. Language acquisition is exactly what you did to learn Portuguese. And believe me, nobody from any other countries, nobody at all from any other countries will ever speak Portuguese at the level that you speak. Because your level of Portuguese is native. Your level is the highest level one can get to. Nobody else in the world can speak Portuguese at the level that you have. And this is not superficial at all. This is actually very deep. You understand Portuguese at a level that nobody else in the world can understand. And that's the beauty of language acquisition. So we're going to move on to what we started out with, input. So as you know, input is language that learners are exposed to, either written or oral. Guys, an oral is spelled Aural. Oral means auditory, what you hear, okay? It's not oral like Oral as you speak. Um, so we're going to move on with this. Language that learners are exposed to, written or oral, that has a communicative or communicative intent. Look what Veronica just said. My students don't translate much out loud, but I do tell them the logic or utility of some language because they feel comfortable not knowing them, especially if their use is frequent. Yes. And well, unfortunately, since English is our second language, you will go through Portuguese. Sometimes Portuguese will make sense for the English language. So I'm not saying that you don't have to translate, you shouldn't translate. I'm just saying that there are many other different types of processes for the student to understand without having to translate. And as educators, not only English teachers, but educators of a language, we should let them know that there are different ways more effective than just translating from Portuguese to English. First of all, is because they don't even know how to translate. They're not interpreters. They're not translators. They what they do actually is called mirroring. So they mirror the language. It's the same idea that brings a student to I am 31 years old. And then he goes through the question, teacher, why is not I have 31 years? Well, because I have 31 years does not really exist in English. They might understand what you say, but this is not how they say it. This is not how the language goes. Because they are not actually translating, they are mirroring. They want the same structure in Portuguese to make sense in English and vice versa. Yes, exactly what Veronica just said. I know I don't translate, I use analogies. I think it's more productive. Yes, it is more productive. And you were going to carry on. So, since we're talking about input, we're going to go for the important features of input. Important features of input for you and for your students. Guys, the input needs to be comprehensible. We talked about it. And they need to have meaning. They need to be meaning bearing. So you have to bear a meaning in there. So that's when I ask you the question. My question to you is, do you guys know what baseboard is? What is baseboard? Baseboard. If you guys understand the word, please write it down. Baseboard. So please write it down, guys. Baseboard. All right, so this is a new word for you, Veronica. Baseboard. So let's see what baseboard is. So baseboard, can you spell it down? Just write it down, guys. Write it down. Baseboard. All right, so the word baseboard. Baseboard is a word that baseboard. Yes, ativo languages mineiros. Baseboard. Actually, this word is only one word. So you connect base and board together. Nope, you taught me last ERP. Oh, that's great. Baseboards. No, actually, it's baseboards with the D. Baseboard. Very good, Vanya. It's exactly what the word is. Baseboard. Please, guys, don't check the word yet. If you haven't checked, there you go. There you go. I thought you were talking about baseboards. I don't know if you know, guys, but boar is actually a pig, a different kind of pig, a wild pig. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you know that the king was killed by a boar. Remember the king? He was killed by a boar. Baor, boar, a hog, a big wild pig. All right, so baseboard is the wording we have in there. So now I'm going to make it more comprehensible. Well, baseboard is actually the word that describes something that is between the wall and the floor. So think about it. You see the floor, you look at the floor right now. Take a look at the floor right now. And then on the joint between the floor and the wall, you can see something in there. That's a baseboard. Can you see the word baseboard? So if you know the word baseboard now, what you're going to do with that word baseboard, you're going to put that into practice. So look at the situation right here. 2 weeks ago, my mother decided that we needed to actually, build a new house for us. And when I say build a new house, I'm not only talking about, changing the furniture and all that. It's like build it from the scratch. It's just like get the corner base, get the cornerstone of what we consider to be a good house and build it. And this is what we did. We decided to build this new house, and this new house is just beautiful. There's only one thing missing, a baseboard. Because, my mother likes the baseboard to be wooden baseboard, and I actually like the baseboard to be the same as the floor because I think it's more beautiful. When it connects like the floor and the baseboard, I don't know. It is more beautiful to me. What about you guys? Do you like different color baseboards or you like the same color as the floor? You see, Malu just said the same color as the floor. Veronica just said, I hate baseboards. Zivi just said, I never thought about it. Some people said the same color. Some people said the same as the floor. So you see how interesting it is. We just learned new vocabulary. And then what I did is I created a situation. I used that vocabulary. And now I interacted with my students. I put that into practice with my students. And right after that, that's when you have your students produce. Look at that. Viviane just said the cheapest one. There is always the funny student. That's always the creative student, right? The cheapest one is great. You see, now the student is interacting with the other student. And Leticia just go, wow, 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 which is a kind of interaction too. It doesn't really help linguistically, but it is an interaction. It's a perfect interaction. Simple and practical, this one. Exactly. You learn vocabulary. You create a situation using that vocabulary, and then you give your students an opportunity to understand that vocabulary fully, and now you have them produce with the vocabulary. But there is one problem in there. You see that you guys did not use the word baseboard? You guys said other words. You said, oh, never thought about it. The same color, same as the floor, the cheapest one. And this happens to our students, and we cannot let this happen because your sentences are not complete. And when your sentences are not complete, usually you forget what you're talking about. So the sentence should be, my favorite kind of baseboard is the same color as the floor. My favorite kind, or I like the baseboard when they are the same color as the floor. I like the baseboards, but well, actually, I never thought about baseboards. Use the word that you just learned. That is the secret. People talk about the secret of learning languages. Learn languages in 3 months and all that. That's BS. We all know that's BS. But you need to put the words you've learned into practice. So, this is for our Achieve Languages teachers community. I want to see you guys posting today about baseboards, okay? If you have Instagram, you can follow my Instagram, which is at EBFDog, and you can tag me there using the words at EBFDog. You can actually go there to my Instagram, post a video teaching that baseboard because teaching is something that makes you remember that vocabulary for the rest of your life, and that's going to be great. So, an apologist said, me too. I never thought about it. But now I think I prefer the same color as the floor. You see, this conversation is starting to make sense. This is how input happens, and this is how output happens. You learned a word, you started talking about the word, you use that word, you put that word into practice, and that's how learning happens. Simple as that. You just put that into practice. So let's move on. So as you can see in here, this pretty much summarizes everything that we talked about. Input is important because acquisition of both L1, which means language one, your mother tongue, and L2, which means your second language or the language you're learning, is input dependent. You cannot learn the language if you don't have input. Simple as that, straight to the point. Look at that. Does anybody here speak Russian? Why not? Because you've never been exposed to it. If you had been exposed to it since you were born, you would be speaking Russian right now. It's exactly what happened to you when it comes to Portuguese. Since the day you were born, some people started speaking to you in Portuguese. You've watched cartoons in Portuguese. Some people read stories to you in Portuguese. Your mother talked to you in Portuguese. Your sister talked to you in Portuguese. When you turn on the TV, everything was in Portuguese. You went to school, everything was in Portuguese. Oh my God, there's Portuguese everywhere. Now you're a perfect Portuguese speaker. You can communicate in that language because you've been exposed to it. And that's simple and straight to the point like that. Look at the second topic that says exposure to input is necessary for SLA, which means second language acquisition. If you don't expose yourself to it, if your students are not exposed to new vocabulary, if your students are not exposed to new language, they're not going to learn it because it's impossible. I have a question to you guys. Excuse me, how do you say hola or hello in Mandarin? 你好. Ni hao. Exactly. Ni hao. Because you just learned it. You've been exposed to this language. And when you're exposed to it, look at it. Look at how many people just learned. Oh my God, this is amazing. Uh, by the way, guys, what is the name of that thing between the floor and the wall that can be either wooden or the same color as the floor? Exactly. That's the baseboard. So you see, you've just learned that. And now you know it. And that's how learning goes. Simple. When you are exposed to it, now you know it. You exposed to it, now you know it. You exposed to it, now you know it. You exposed to it, now you know it. Simple as that. But if you don't put that into practice, you can forget about it. And this happens to all of us. You've seen that it happens to a lot of teachers. They had lived in a different country, their English was at a certain level, then they came back to Brazil, and then their level of English has started to, I don't know, to decrease a little bit. And some of them ask me this question when I'll do language consultancy. They go like, Rodrigo, why is my English not as good as it used to be when I lived in the United States? It's man, simple and straight to the point. You don't practice as much. You don't use it as much. Of course, it's not going to keep the same level. And that's when I use the word fossilized. Because we usually use the word fossilized when it comes to fossilizing errors, fossilizing mistakes, fossilizing wrong structure. But all of the language you know, you fossilized it. That's why you speak it so naturally, because it's already fossilized on your brain. So try to fossilize the new vocabulary you learn. Now, guys, please never forget what baseboard is. Never forget how to greet a Chinese person. Say, Ni hao, I like the baseboard in your house. The baseboard that you have in your house is really beautiful. It's the same color as the floor. Oh my God, beautiful communication. And then when you talk to the Chinese person, you will remember this talk. All right, so getting back to that. So input is important because acquisition of LA1 and L2 is input dependent. Exposure to input is necessary for second language acquisition, but not all input makes it in to the developing system. And what kind of input am I talking about? I'm talking about the input that is not comprehensible. So it's not going to be part of your system because you didn't really understand it. You understood ni hao, but you don't understand when I come up to you and say 吃了不吃啊，哭吃用总他. Can you understand that part now? You've just received the input, but did it make it in to your developing system? I mean, does it make a difference in your life right now? Of course not. We all know. You don't even need to answer that. We all know. We're going to move on. So, input is filtered and processed. Of course, it is. Your brain will not speak exactly what your brain hears because your brain will automatically select how your learning goes. So you pretty much needs to force you need to force your brain into learning because it's not going to be that simple. All right, so we're going to move on with this. So this goes for all of us teachers. Characteristics of simplified input. I took this from a book by Hatch, 1983. So what it says there is slower rate, longer pauses, extra stress on nouns. Why do you have to speak fast with your students? Your objective and your goal is to make people understand the language. Your objective is not to let them know that you speak fast and you're cool and everything, you know all the slang terms. I mean, because I was I was born here in Brazil, but I lived in New York and I can talk like this and that. That's not your objective. Your objective as a teacher is to give them the opportunity to learn. That's why We want to simplify it for them. It happens to me a lot. Teacher, I usually listen to a lot of radio stations and I watch series and I don't quite understand what they say, but I do understand what you say. What's the difference? I say, well, actually, the difference is because when I'm talking to you, I want to make you understand, and I'm a teacher, so I have developed techniques to make you understand. It doesn't matter what level the person has. My mother does not speak any English. And if I want to make my mother understand, I know how to do it. And this is exactly what we do. This is the power a teacher has. The power we have is we take somebody that does not know anything about your subject and we make them understand. We teach them. This is how powerful we are. This is how blessed we are. Being a teacher is a gift. Not everybody can be a teacher. Not at all. How many of you are fluent in Portuguese, are proficient in Portuguese, but you cannot teach Portuguese? Imagine if everybody that just comes from the United States were a teacher. They aren't. They're just the speakers. Being a teacher is actually a gift. It's something that we train to be. We become a teacher through training, through learning, through experience, through understanding our students. That's not something that just go like, "Hey, I speak English. I'm going to be a teacher right now. Okay, open your books. I'm a teacher." That's not how it happens. So that's why we have a training like this. We want to prepare the best teachers. We want to have the best teachers. And this is Achieve Languages. We need to have the best teachers. You've been hired for a purpose. And that's why you're part of this great team. So you see, the message I'm trying to get across with is simple. When I speak slower, my students understand exactly what the message is. And that's the point. We're going to go for the next. Vocabulary. High frequency vocabulary, less slang. Slang terms are beautiful. I don't know if you know it, but I love slangs. I love slang terms. Slang is beautiful to me. It sounds really cool and all that. But man, what is the purpose of slang? Purpose of slang usually is to communicate something in a certain group. That slang is ephemeral, which means that it comes in and out of style very quickly, like lickety split. And this is not going to be effective for our student. I'm not saying that slang terms should not be taught. I'm just saying that slang terms change quickly. And if you only learn through slang, things will change really quickly. So, high frequency vocabulary is the vocabulary that always appears. For example, the word table. Every student in Brazil knows the word table, knows the word dog, knows the word cat, knows how to count from 1 to 10, knows how to say blue, black, white, and yellow. But not every student know how to say gray or beige or purple or silver because it's not common or high frequent vocabulary. Next one is syntax. Guys, while you're teaching, please use short sentences, but you can make them longer depending on the level of your student. If you're teaching network starter, if you're teaching network 1, why are you going to come up to your student and say, "Hey, today we're going to have a little conversation about the simple present." Simple present is one of the verb tenses used in the English language, and it is used for routine. Why are you going to say all these complex things? If you just want to say, "Hello guys, today we'll see simple present. Simple present is used for three things: routine, facts, and timetables. And then you continue your class. Simplify it. Repeat the sentences. If you keep repeating the same sentences, they become high frequent vocabulary and it's easier for the students to learn. Teacher, may I go to the bathroom? Teacher, may I go to the bathroom? Or, hello, students. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Brian. Hello, Vanya. Hello, Marcia. Hello, Malu. Hello, Ana Paula. Hello, Alexandre. Hello, Vivian. Please open your books to page number 45. If you keep saying, please open your books to page number 45, on the third day of class, they already know what that means. And this is the beauty of learning. We're going to move on to the discourse, choice of responses, tag questions, and correction. Well, for the discourse, keep it simple, keep it straight to the point. If your students are learning, it's not okay if they're very basic to use irony, to use sarcasm, because they understand literally. So be a little more literal with your student in the beginning, and then with time, things will start to make more sense. And then they know that when you're saying, hey, you are not late today. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, teacher. I know I'm late. But this comes with time. If you say that to a very basic student, say, hey, you're not late today. They'll be, no, teacher, I am late. I am late because say they don't understand the irony yet. And I don't know if it happens to your students, but it does happen to my students. And the last but not least is the speech setting. Repetition of scenarios, daily encounters in a particular place. Guys, this happens to us naturally. Our speech setting. I don't know if it happens to you, but teachers usually say the same thing over and over. Hello, guys. Did you do your homework? Let me check. Workbook. Okay. So, guys, whenever you go home, don't forget the platform, Unit 3, needs to be done. Don't forget to bring the workbook next class. We need to correct it. Hello, guys. Good morning. You know, these are simple sentences that we usually use. Actually, we always use. If you're a teacher, you know you use it. And that's what we call speech setting, your repetitions of scenarios. Hello, guys. Did you do your homework? That's one scenario. Uh, hey, guys, if you want to drink water now, it's okay. Guys, would you like to go to the bathroom before the test starts? And he goes like that. So that's what we call speech setting and repetitions. So we're going to move on. We're moving on to this concept is a quick concept. Take a look at this. It's called binding. This is called binding. Well, binding is the term I propose, but when I say I'm not talking about Rodrigo. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about Terrell. In 1986, he said that. By the way, that's when I was born. You know, I'm a young brother. He said, binding is the term I propose to describe the cognitive and affective mental process of linking a meaning to a form. I'm going to stop right here. Linking a meaning to a form. How do you do that? You do that very simply. You do that by teaching vocabulary. We learned the word baseboard. The first thing I said is, guys, do you know what baseboard is? No. So let me give you an explanation. Guys, baseboard is actually that thing that we have between the wall and the floor. And then you learned by listening to it. You tried in your mind to picture it. So when you pictured it, and then if I were with you, I would just show you guys. This is what we call baseboard. Usually your students go like this. Ah, I know what baseboard is. All right, fine. Or he will just translate it. Ah, teacher, é rodapé, né? Because we always have that student that likes to translate. Even though you're showing everything, you're touching the thing, you're saying the name of the thing, but the person needs to say, é rodapé, não é, professor? I say, yeah, it is. And usually, right after that, your student will ask the question, teacher, how do you spell it? And when you say, how do you spell it? He's going to the last part of the vocabulary learning, which is the form, which is how you write it, how you, like, I need to materialize it. Vanya just asked the question, is it okay to accept this kind of translation? Yes, it is. Because this translation is not exactly a translation. This translation is your student saying to himself like this, oh, I think I understood it. Let me just confirm it. Teacher, is it rodapé? Yes, it is. You don't need to translate that. And he might not translate that again, but he translated that once. He said, oh, that's rodapé, right? Okay, so now I can usually, oh, I can use that language more naturally and feel more secure when I'm using that. And I don't know if you know, but this is a secret. I I'm this kind of person. Okay? I am this kind of person that when I learn vocabulary, usually I bring it back to Portuguese and then I feel secure and then I can teach that. I can use that more naturally. So if you teach me something, I don't know, let me say that you just taught me how to say wallet. And then usually I go like this wallet. Oh, okay. So wallet is carteira, right? Okay, fine. So yeah, I have a wallet. I have a black wallet. My wallet is full of money. That's a lie, but that's a good sentence. So then I feel more comfortable. So take a look at this. This is what we call binding. When you describe the cognitive and affective. Affective means bring it closer to me. Bring it closer to me. Veronica just said, I think they do this thing sometimes to feel secure and feel good about having understood it. Exactly. This is exactly what it is, Veronica. They don't translate, I mean, and I include myself in it. We don't translate that because we don't understand it. We translate that just because we want to feel more secure to reuse it, to put that into practice. I do this. I do this very constantly, actually. Um, so it says in there, binding is when you describe the cognitive and affective mental process of linking a meaning of a certain word that you just learned, that new vocabulary, to the form of it. So you connect what it is to how it's written, to how it sounds, the forms of it. The concept of binding is what language teachers refer to when they insist that a new word ultimately be associated directly with its meaning and not with a translation. Do you see that? Just like as a teacher, man, sometimes you ever seen uh, that your student just asked you a question regarding vocabulary. I don't know. Your student saw the word Caesars, and then he asked you the question, teacher, I've seen this word scissors. What does that mean? And then there's always one student go like this, oh, scissors at tesoura. And I don't know if it happens to you, but what happens to me is like, damn it, why did you say it? This is my job, okay? He asked me. He asked me, not you. So whenever he asks me this question, let me take him down the path of learning. Let me take him down a path into process and learning a language. Stop saying that in Portuguese. And your student go like this, oh, come on, teacher. I just tried to help. I say, look, you're not helping, okay? Whenever you translate, when another student asks a question, you're actually telling him that he doesn't really need to go into the process of learning and understanding because you translated it. And I'm the teacher here, just like Malu said. Excuse me, I'm the teacher here. I am the teacher here. I have developed techniques to make my students understand without having to go to Portuguese. Let them do the translation. You don't need to do the translation. And if they translate that to feel secure, just confirm, because this is exactly what your student needs. Oh, teacher, so scissor is tesoura. Is that correct? Yes, you're fine. You're correct. Cool. That's it. Simple. Straight to the point. Sounds good? So language binding is meaning, definition of what it is, what it looks like, what is used for. You explain it. You don't need to go to the translation. Actually, who's going to translate? Your student. And when he does, you just confirm it. Yeah, you're fine. You're correct. Let's move on, guys. Well, there are some strategies for acquiring words. You have in there repetition and rote learning. Rote means mechanical. There are people that are more mechanical. They will repeat more mechanically. I don't really like this strategy, okay? I personally don't like when my students just repeat words without context. Some other people acquire that learning, acquire the new words, the new vocabulary by organizing words in the mind. So in their mind, they organize it. So, oh, I learned the word baseboard today. Okay. And then he opens an imaginary drawer and then he puts that word in it. And together with those words, he has floor, wall, ceiling, roof, stairs, and now baseboard. He organizes that. All right, let me see what Veronica just said. Would that mean that writing the new word on the board spelling is a must do in order to lead to binding? Yes, Veronica, exactly. Your question is perfect and your answer is simple. Yes. But it needs to be the last part. The form is the last one. Think about a kid. The kid learns by listening, by seeing, by looking at things. And then when he sees that, he tries to understand the world, he uses that language. And only when he is 6, 7 years old, that's when he goes to school and he starts learning how to write that, learning how to speak that. Not spec, sorry. Learning how to spell that. You go like, oh, so I mean, I've always played soccer since I was a kid, but now that's when I learned how to spell the word soccer. And then he learns how to spell it 7 years later. He's been speaking English for a long, long time, but he learned how to spell it. He learned how to write it when he was 6, sometimes 5, sometimes 7. And that goes like this. And the last one here, guys, is linking to existing knowledge. This is exactly what my favorite strategy is. So it goes like this. Look at that. You got the word baseboard, right? So now baseboard for me is go like this. It goes like this. All right. Oh, okay. Well, so baseboard is I have the word base, which is the base of the wall, and I have the word board because actually we have many boards that we connect to the wall. Oh, that's what we call a baseboard. Oh, cool. So now it's easy for me to understand it. It's easy for me to keep the vocabulary. So, can you guys give me an example of words that you can just connect to existing things to make sense? Exactly, water truck. The water truck in Portuguese is crazy. It's caminhão pipa. That's the water truck. But it's easy, right? Oh, because you know the word water and you know the word truck. And then you get the water truck. Veronica just say wallpaper. Exactly. It's a paper that you put on a wall. And that's easy for you to understand wallpaper. Oh yeah, wallpaper. Like papel parede. Papel de parede. Wallpaper. Oh my god, teacher. English is so easy. Oh my god. Yes, it is. You just need to make the correct corrections. The correct connections. Sounds good with the strategies? Let's move on. This goes for little kids. Today we had a beautiful talk with Diane and Leticia about kids and tiny kids and many activities in there. It's going to be available for you guys. It's going to be beautiful. Jose from Achieve Betim just said mobile phone. Mobile phone. Exactly. Is the phone that you already have, you might have it at home, and that's mobile because you can move it and you can move it around with you. So that's mobile phone. Exactly. And this is how the connection goes. All right, let's move on. So, as you can see there on the screen, input and vocabulary, TPR. As I was saying before, Diane and Leticia, they came up with a great work today in the morning with activities for kids and tiny kids. And you know that TPR is great for kids because they're very energetic, they're very kinesthetic, and they love to move around. So some students might learn by running to it, going to it. I'll give you a simple example. Yesterday, I was teaching my reach out students, my teenagers. They are 11, 12, and 13 years old. And they were learning there is and there are. And when they were learning that, they were actually going like, "Oh, there are many cars on the street." And then it really kicked in like that. I say, "Hey, hold up. I'm talking about cars on the street. What am I doing here? What am I doing in the classroom? Let's go to the street." So that's when I opened the school door and we started looking at things. And my students were like this, "Oh, teacher, there are many houses on this street. Teacher, there is one motorcycle." And then I say, "How do you say padaria?" And they were like, "Oh, bakery." Yes, so there is one motorcycle in front of the bakery, right? Yeah. And then automatically my students say like this, "Teacher, there are many cars on the street." Yes. And this is how it goes. We actually went to the street. We made them move. They used their bodies to go there. They connected to things that they could see, not only in the classroom when I write it down on the board. So that's what we call input based vocabulary activities. They're meaningful and they are comprehensible. They're meaningful because they are part of the process and they mean something like this. Oh, teacher, so whenever I go to the supermarket, I could say there are many products. Yes, there are many products in the supermarket. And that's how it goes. So we're walking down the path to the last part. And why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because all of our books are based on this theory. So you came up to me and said, "Oh, okay, like you're talking all that, you're showing the theory, you're trying to put it into practice, but why am I really learning that?" You're learning that because your book is like that. Because our material, because Oxford University Press has worked hard to come up with great materials and modern ways of teaching. So we're going to get down to business right now. First book I have for you is, you guys know this book here? By the looks of things, can you tell me what this book is? Yes, you can. Just read it on the right side. It says American Headway 4, Unit 1, page 8. This is all about vocabulary and pronunciation. And we're talking about compound nouns. Usually, what I teach my students is oh, by the way, before I talk about my students, let me show you how it starts. It starts like this: compound words, compound nouns, and adjectives. Words can combine to make new words. You see that the first thing is the explanation what compound nouns and compound adjectives is. He didn't really write anything on the board showing. The first thing is the explanation. This is what it is: compound nouns, compound adjectives. Words can combine to make new words. That's a compound. And then it gives you examples of compound nouns. Look at the examples. Which are nouns, which are adjectives. Then you have life. Then you have lifestyle, lifelong, life size, life expectancy, and life insurance. They don't explain anything more than what they have to explain. As simple and straight to the point. Now they know what compound noun is. Look at the first exercise. How many compounds can you make by combining the words in the circle with the words around it? You see, it's just like straight to the point. Hey guys, this is what compound noun is. Maybe you never paid attention to this, but now pay attention. For example, we have the word life, and you can create lifestyle, lifelong, life size, life expectancy, life insurance. What about now? We have the words home and house. And then you go, oh, homework. And the other student, oh, housewarming. And the other student, oh, teacher, homesick. And then they will do it. You see, there's no explanation in it. They just go and do it. You just explained what compound noun is. The rest the students will do. Your book brings that. It's not my idea. It's what your book is all about. And then look at the exercise number 3. The exercise number 3 is complete these lines with one of the compounds that you created. Now that you learned the vocabulary, you learned what this is about, is compound nouns. You learned the vocabulary. You created your own vocabulary based on what you already know. And now you're going to the number 3, which is put into practice what you've just learned. Put it into a context. What you've just learned. As simple and straight to the point like that. Take a look. And then right down below on exercise number 5, it reads, how many compounds can you make using a word from A and a word from B? You are just expanding your vocabulary. For example, you have in there, what was that? Junk food, computer software, teapot, open air, food poisoning, sleeping bag. And this is how it goes. You understand it? So your book brings it like that. Your American Headway is based on Crashing's theory, is based on Hatch's theory, is based on learning what it is about, putting that what you've just learned into practice, and not necessarily having to understand all the process. Why is it called compound noun? Oh, don't worry about this. It's just like compound nouns are combining words, and then you make a different vocabulary. You understand it? Yeah. Yes, I do. So let's create some. Oh, now that you created, can you put it into practice? Yeah, let's contextualize it. And then you contextualize it. So this happens in your book, American Headway 4. Take a look at this. As you can see, the next book here, you might be more familiar. So this is Network 3, Unit 4, page number 21. On this one, what do you have? You have phrasal verbs. Look at how they start teaching you vocabulary. Listen and repeat. Listen and repeat. He doesn't say learn how to spell it or learn how to put it into practice. No, it says listen and repeat. Straight to the point. Check the phrasal verbs you know, because maybe you already know them. And then you have them say, run into. Teacher, what is run into? Don't worry about it, guys. Run into, catch up with, throw out, take off, turn up, turn down. Now that you learned how to pronounce them, let's try to understand them. Guys, take a look at the image. Number one, run into. What's happening in there? Ah, apparently this guy is. He just saw this girl. Are they friends? Well, I think they are because look at this. Like it feels like he is. I don't know. He's it's like trying to hug her or something. Yeah. So this is exactly what it is, guys. When you run into a person, you usually run into a friend of yours, and you didn't actually set a day or time to meet the person. You just ran into the person out of out of the blue, all of a sudden, and then you go, "Hey, this is good to see you here at the supermarket." And say, "Hey, mom, I ran into my cousin today, James." And this is how the vocabulary goes for network two. First, you learn how to speak it. Then you learn how to put it into. You learn how to use it, basing them on the images. And look at the exercise that comes next. It brings you to vocabulary that you already know. You connect to existing knowledge. Look at that. Everybody in Brazil knows the verb remove. You know why? Because this is Latin vocabulary. Remove means remover. So remove, remover, it's simple. Put something in the trash can. Maybe they don't know what trash can is, but with your finger, you just point to the trash can that's in your classroom. And say, oh, when you put something in the trash can, okay, make louder. Maybe they don't understand louder, but they understand the TV, music, etc. Make quieter. And that's how he goes. You see, and then look at the exercise number 3. It says in there, ask and answer questions with a partner. What did you do? You learned the vocabulary by speaking and listening to it. Then you compare to things that you already know. And then you finish that vocabulary activity with put that into practice now. Do you ever run into your classmates outside of class? Have you caught up with any old friends recently? What do you take off first when you get home? What was the last thing you threw out? So you put that vocabulary into practice. This is how network vocabulary goes. Everything about crashing, everything about hatch. Now we're going to go for the last one, which is reach out 3. Look at reach out 3, unit 2. And it says, it teaches you the vocabulary again. Check the meanings of the vocabulary. And then the other exercise about vocabulary, because you're talking about numbers, you're talking about the population, you're talking about the world. And then what do? You put that vocabulary into practice. How? By using that vocabulary. So this is how it goes. This is how our book goes. And that's beautiful. So, guys, I'm walking towards the end. And thank you very much for staying here. I'm really, really sorry for the technical problem that happened today. Uh, but it's all good. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. Um, you see how the exercises go. I mean, we talked about vocabulary today, and we learned that vocabulary is fun. It can be really fun. You can learn it and you can put it into practice. And if you guys have any further questions, I'm gonna be here. You guys know my Instagram, so you've seen my Instagram before, and I'm gonna put it here. So if you guys want to follow that, it's EBF Dog. It's my English language Instagram. If you guys want to go there, you can share that with your teachers, with your students. It'll be nice. And yeah, so unfortunately, I mean, we started off a little late, and then that's when uh, I got here. But it's 5:27 right now. Thank you very much, Malu, Talita, Achieve Mambore, always connected, Vivian, Alexandre Zivi, all of you. Thank you guys very much. So here on the screen, I really do need your feedback. Your feedback is of utmost importance for us to keep it going. And thank you very much, Honey Rodriguez. Thank you very much, Achieve Languages Betim, uh, and everybody that stayed here until now. Thank you very much, Vanya, for staying here, for participating. Please, guys, just check your QR code reader and answer the survey. It's all about your feedback. I'm gonna leave it there for you. Thank you guys very much, and I hope to see you guys in the next Encontro Regional Pedagógico. Meu nome é Rodrigo, eu vou falar em português agora. É só para dar um tchau. Muito obrigado por estarem aqui até o momento e nos vemos mais tarde. Até mais, gente. Muito obrigado.